Good morning, everyone. My name is Abiola, and I'm the Secretary for Walnut Foundation. I have the privilege of introducing Dr. Nicole Culos-Reed this morning. So, Dr. Culos-Reed is a University of Calgary professor. Is a University of Calgary professor of health and exercise psychology in the Faculty of Kinesiology, adjunct professor in the Department of Oncology in the CUNYM School of Medicine, and director of the Health and Wellness Lab and Thrive Center. She holds a research associate appointment with the Department of Psychosocial Resources at the Tom Baker Center, Cancer Center, Alberta Health Services. Dr. Culos-Reed research takes a multidisciplinary approach to understanding and improving the quality of life of individuals living with and beyond cancer, developing, delivering, and evaluating physical activity program to address the physical and psychological challenges experienced throughout treatment and into survivorship. This research includes national and international collaborations, working with populations with pediatrics to adult population, including those with advanced cancer, and most recently includes Canadian Institute of Health Research, Canadian Cancer Society, CRHRCCS, Cancer Survivorship, Team Grants, 2020 to 2026, with additional support from Alberta Cancer Foundation, ACF, to bring our team's exercise oncology program to underserved rural and remote populations across Canada. Dr. Culos-Reed is a co-founder of Thrive Health, an online education company building capacity in health and fitness professionals to deliver safe and effective exercise oncology resources. As a health behavior change researcher, Dr. Culos-Reed is passionate about building capacity within cancer care to safely and effectively support individuals with cancer to live well and move more. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Culos-Reed to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Olatana. I'm going to share my screen here. Just a second. All righty. So thank you very much for that introduction. It is my pleasure to be here today. Just to confirm, Ken, you can see my screen now?
Yes, I could.
Perfect. Wonderful. So again, thank you very much to Ken and the Walnut Foundation for the invitation to come and talk about exercise and really its role across living well with prostate cancer. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that we all live and work within the traditional territories of Indigenous populations. Here in Calgary, that is the Treaty 7 region in Southern Alberta. As well, the city of Calgary is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. And as was mentioned, I am the co-founder of Thrive Health Services. You'll see a little piece on this, but it is a training company, and it's really about building capacity in our communities for fitness and exercise professionals to better serve individuals living with cancer. So as I go forward today, I'm going to cover the evidence, really the so what. Why should we care about exercise? You know, we always just assume, okay, it's exercise, go for a walk, and that's enough. I'm going to show you a bit more about the evidence and really why it is so critical that we integrate exercise into standard cancer care. So the next piece is really then taking that evidence and moving it into practice. And it really is this idea of use it or lose it, and mind the barriers or the gaps that are there. We're traditionally notorious for not being good at taking the evidence that we build through our research and putting it into actual practice. And so within that, I'm going to talk first and foremost about the guidelines, and that's really the first step along with education to supporting individuals to move more. And then finally, I'm going to go over resources. So the work that we've done and the focus in my lab is really on moving evidence to practice and building the resources for those living with and beyond cancer. So I will talk about those, including what was mentioned in the introduction, our Cancer Survivorship Team Grant that is across Canada and is an option for individuals that may be listening today. Before I get started, I want to simply present what I'm talking about, and that's both physical activity and exercise. So I love that Ken said at the break, hope everybody got up and moved, right? And that's really at the crux of this. We want people to move more during your activities of daily living, right? So I always say when I give talks like this, the best would be if we all had headphones on and we were out walking. And I don't know what the weather's like where you are today, but here in Calgary, it is a gorgeous, sunny, crisp fall day, perfect for getting outside and walking. And so when I talk about physical activity, it is simply the movement you can engage upon during your usual day, whether that's taking the stairs when you get to a building, whether it's parking farther away and walking in, being up and down, not sitting, not being sedentary as much as possible. And then we have exercise, which is a subset of physical activity. And it is really when you're engaging in structured movement for the purpose of health gains. Now, that's not just fitness gains, right? Stronger muscles, better heart functioning, lung functioning, but it is psychosocial gains as well. And you heard a little bit of that in the end of John's talk. And I think there was the question on, you know, can you use other things to help with emotional well-being, with depression or anxiety and stress? And we have a lot of evidence that exercise, structured, purposeful movement can enhance psychosocial well-being as much as it does fitness and functional well-being. Okay, so really important that we recognize moving from movement to exercise and the value of both of those. All movement is beneficial. And as I said, I'm going to show you the guidelines, but I want you to keep in mind that simply moving and building a habit of whether it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, or 30 minutes a day, as long as you're doing it regularly, there are health benefits, physical and psychosocial, to be gained. And so if you look across just the cancer literature, we've got a ton of evidence. And these are just a couple of the more recent reviews and studies that have been done, really looking at the role of exercise. And so we have thousands of studies, and prostate cancer is our second most studied population after breast cancer in the exercise oncology literature. So here you can see I pulled up some of the titles of, again, just some of the more recent work, because there's been teams that have been doing this for the last 25, 30 years. So you can see some of these titles here, including some reviews as well as position papers on, you know, how do we put this into clinical applications? I can tell you across this evidence, very strong and consistent evidence showing the benefits of exercise for men living with prostate cancer. From everything from, you know, the bottom study you see here, exercise preserving physical function in prostate cancer patients with bone metastases. So even 5 years ago, we would have looked at a man with more advanced prostate cancer who may have bone mets and said, well, let's maybe not have you exercise because of the potential complications and risks, right? The group in Australia that's done this work in Australia really has led a lot of the prostate cancer and exercise work. But they found in this study that men could engage in a multimodal exercise program, and they self-reported higher functioning, and the objective measure of lower body strength was improved with zero increased risk. So zero negative adverse events, zero complications, right? So when we provide exercise in structured environments where it's safe, because there's a lot of other pieces to this before somebody comes into the study, they're assessed and screened, and then we essentially tailor what we're going to be able to give to them, we know we can positively impact outcomes. Okay, so a very powerful tool for function, for overall well-being, for enhancing quality of life. In addition to that, there's really recent research starting to look at the how, the mechanisms. And so this exercise-induced myokines and their effect on prostate cancer is again from the group in Australia. Daniel Galveo and Rob Newton have really led this work, looking at what happens when you exercise. So myokines, they're a cytokine that's released from the muscle, and they can really counter the negative tumor environment, essentially. Now, this isn't my area of expertise. I'm really on the other far end of just clinical application, but this is exciting work, really showing the potential mechanisms, the how that exercise is beneficial, and if it actually changes tumor environments, the opportunities to deliver then exercise during treatment in conjunction with chemotherapy to potentially optimize impacts becomes more established. And so we see again a stronger rationale and role for exercise during treatment as well as post-treatment. So if I'm going to sum up this literature for you, and I could talk to you all day just on this evidence, but the evidence really shows exercise is safe and beneficial for all those living with cancer, including men with prostate cancer, across the continuum. And in prostate cancer, there's work that looks at really pre-treatment, so that the watchful waiting, right? The active phase when men may have elevated tests pre but not being diagnosed. And so really, how do you use exercise to live and be as healthy as possible during that phase? And then really where the bulk of the work has been done is in that treatment and immediate post-treatment phases, where we see multimodal exercises, so different types of exercise programs impact a variety of outcomes ranging from fitness to physical outcomes to clinical markers to psychosocial and overall well-being. And then there's growing areas of research in longer-term survivorship and in advanced populations, so men with metastatic or advanced prostate cancer. And again, in populations where even 5-7 years ago, we didn't really think there would be much we could do in terms of structured exercise. There was maybe movements or gentle forms of exercise, but we're really seeing that it can be safe and possible to have very positive impacts on function, maintaining activities of daily living and enhancing quality of life for men living with advanced cancer. So strong evidence really suggesting that exercise is a crucial part of the cancer journey and is really the key wellness behavior to really integrate into standard cancer care. If we look at some of the outcomes studied, these are some of the ones that I pulled if I did a summary of the prostate cancer and exercise literature. Body composition is a big one, especially for men who go on ADT. And so really exercise along with nutrition is one of our most powerful tools for increasing lean muscle mass and decreasing fat mass. And we know that that can be negatively impacted by the hormone treatments. Treatment-related side effects such as incontinence, right? We know that we can use exercise with a focus on the core to engage the pelvic floor muscle because it is a muscle, and we can strengthen that through core awareness and exercises so that it can help to alleviate that negative impact caused by incontinence. And then the big one, cancer-related fatigue. So this is the #1 negative side effect reported across populations. And we really see that exercise is our absolutely best evidence-based tool. There isn't a pill for fatigue. There isn't a single therapy for fatigue, but exercise is our biggest evidence-based tool. And we did the work. This was led by a team led by Lillian Sung out of Sick Kids Hospital and Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto. And we did a review of all of the trials, the randomized trials done, looking at the treatments and the potential interventions to reduce fatigue. And we published a series of these reviews. The physical activity review showed the strongest impact. So physical activity reduced across populations and regardless of the type of activity or the duration of the activity. So it could be an aerobic program like walking. It could include some strength-based activities. It could include more mindfulness and yoga movement-based activities as well. All of these showed across the intervention durations from pre to post a reduction in patient-reported fatigue, right? So it's really our best tool that we currently have to alleviate what can be a very distressing symptom and pull people away from engaging in their activities of daily living. And we also know that higher levels of fatigue are related to higher levels of emotional distress. That's stress, anxiety, and depression that John spoke so much about. In addition to all of those kind of here and now, the cancer management, the functioning, the physical and mental well-being benefits, we know there's an actual relationship between physical activity and long-term outcomes, survival outcomes. And what this literature shows in men with prostate cancer is that a modest amount of moderate to vigorous activity. So vigorous activity, I haven't defined yet, but that's like you're late for a doctor's appointment, a brisk walk, right? Where you're really pushing your body, that's in that moderate to vigorous range. So when we see men who report 90 minutes to upwards of 3 hours per week, in comparison with men who report being inactive, sedentary, no minutes a week. The active group has a significantly reduced risk of cancer recurrence, cancer mortality, and all-cause mortality in comparison to our inactive population. Okay, so this is true for prostate cancer. The evidence has been gathered from a number of studies, big reviews looking at this associative relationship, as well as across other tumor types. So we have this evidence in breast cancer. We see it in ovarian cancer, for example, colorectal cancer. There's this survival benefit from being physically active. And we know this in the general population as well, right? That leading a physically active lifestyle is associated with living longer, with reduction of chronic conditions, comorbidities. So across the evidence, exercise is safe and potentially beneficial. We know that we can effectively deliver exercise during treatment when we tailor and adjust it to, based on the needs of the populations. And really, when we think about the trajectory of the cancer journey from you know, in prostate cancer, that watchful waiting or active surveillance stage through to living with an advanced prostate cancer, the benefits of exercise can really depend then on where an individual is on that timeline. So again, prior to treatment, the active surveillance, it can be preparation, it can be maintaining health and function for as long as possible. During treatment, we're looking to use exercise or movement to maintain function and really to alleviate the usual decline that will happen with treatment, right? There's a lot of negative physical, functional, and psychosocial side effects that can happen associated with treatment. And we can alleviate that usual decline to help people then be able to recover better afterwards. And it's really in that after treatment phase that we're looking to improve function, to improve fitness, to improve overall psychosocial and well-being, and with the overall goal of enhancing quality of life. One note on all of this. So all movement's good, whatever you can do and get in and work into your usual lifestyle is fantastic. What the evidence shows, however, is that supervised exercise programs, whether it's individual or group-based, it can be supervised online, as we saw very well during COVID and continues after, or it can be in person. But supervised with a trained professional yields superior results across most of our outcomes in comparison to unsupervised. Okay, so a lot of potential benefits that we see, and really the one caveat is to have that trained fitness professional to really lead the programs. So tons of evidence, right, really showing the necessity of building exercise into standard cancer care. The bad news, however, is we know that we're not getting that translation. Very few cancer survivors report being physically active, especially during treatment. But unfortunately, many of them don't get that activity increase even after treatment. So we know unless we build the support in, unless we make it accessible and help remove some of the barriers, right, we're not seeing people just do it, that Nike slogan, right? It's not just happening. And we know that they tend to remain low longer term, right? If you look across different studies, there's this wide range, 17 to 43%. Of individuals that actually meet physical activity guidelines. And it really depends on the population and what stage they are during treatment or after treatment. But generally, it's bad news. So we've got this discord, right? We've got all of this strong evidence showing that this lifestyle behavior can be very impactful, and yet most individuals are not doing it. Considerations of race in here. So I added in this slide actually after I'd sent my presentation to Ken, but I thought, okay, I'm going to do a quick look and see what has been done to look at this issue. And the big picture is very little has been done. So if you look across the exercise oncology literature, very little work has done anything to look at race. Now, some of the studies looking at, you know, access to wellness resources and wellness in different systems has looked more at that race issue. But when I'm talking about physical activity or the associations between exercise, a few studies more in the last like 2 to 3 years have started to come out, but not a lot looking at this. What has been done shows really a mixed bag. Some of these studies show no differences between, primarily in these studies, African American and white populations. Those are the two comparison groups. So very little differences across the populations in terms of the determinants of physical activity for these groups, or the associations between these groups and exercise in terms of their incidence of prostate cancer. So to date, not a lot. What we do see sometimes the difference is in this bottom study here, the underrepresentation. And so typically in the studies that have been done to date, including across Canada, there's an underrepresentation of ethnic populations in general. So we see a white majority population, which isn't representative of the overall population. The work in our lab has started to actually address this. We've done work in South Asian populations, and we're doing work in sexual minority populations right now. But very little has really taken into consideration everything from the front end of how do we interest this population to come into our studies and into our programs, right? To then looking at the potential impact of race on different outcomes. So a lot of work still to be done. And one of the, I guess, caveats in all of this literature for you to consider. But in general, we know mechanisms-wise, exercise impacts-wise, there is no difference across races, right? Exercise is good for all of us. So I love this picture because this really summarizes where we're at right now, right? All of the evidence is not making it into practice, which is really unfortunate because exercise is so good across different outcomes. As I said earlier in research, we're renowned for having what we call the 17-year gap of moving research evidence into practice. And I have worked very hard across our career, my career here, and within the collaborative teams that we've built across Canada to start to address this, to really take that evidence and move it into practice and then to study it in the real world. So the first step is cancer exercise guidelines, right? And I want you to take a look at these guidelines, but with a strong caveat that as you look at these, recognize that even 5 to 10 minutes a day of regular movement can provide benefits. So the guidelines are great. They're based on, here's a summary of the evidence where we optimize health benefits from exercise, right? And you can see here, there's aerobic types of exercise. So that's your walking, your swimming, your cycling, anything that gets your heart rate elevated, you're working your lungs, your cardiovascular system. Then we have strength training. And I can tell you the evidence is very clear for men with prostate cancer. Strength training adds benefits above and beyond aerobic activity. Okay, so we really, if you look across the prostate cancer and exercise literature, you often see multimodal exercise programs, HIIT, high intensity interval training programs, and or just resistance training programs because of that importance in outcomes from strength training. So that's working your major muscle groups. And then we have flexibility guidelines, stretching, right? And I always tell, I do a talk every 2 weeks for our Prostate Cancer Center here in Calgary. And I always say on your tired day, on your busiest day, on your day where you're like, I am not getting that walk in, I'm not doing anything else, stretch, okay? Do a nice session where you focus on your breath, where you focus on scanning your body from the top of the head to the tip of the toes to see how does that feel? Where are you holding tension in your body? And can you just gently move around those zones, whether it's for many of us in our neck and our shoulders, stretch it out, right? Simply doing that on a daily basis can afford benefits. Okay, so in moving evidence to practice, these guidelines are great because they give us a target. They give us really a starting place to have the discussion about exercise. Okay, but if that's all we did, if we just went to the guidelines, you know, we're missing a lot of people who the guidelines don't work for them. It's too much. It's seen as, you know, a barrier more than something that can facilitate them going. And then that's where the recommendations that are within the guidelines become important. And in particular, this bottom point, right, that we have to individualize and tailor. So we can't actually take what you just saw, right, these guidelines and just say, everybody go do this, because this doesn't work for everybody that's out there. Rather, individualizing and tailoring. So in any of the exercise programs that we've built and the studies that we do, this is the key point, is we bring individuals in and we meet them where they're at. You're going to see that with the example I have coming up of the Excel study. Okay, so these are the recommendation statements, and it's really this last one that we can't just use the guidelines as a general, hey, everybody go and do this, but we have to take each person and offer them a tailored supported program to really optimize outcomes and benefits. That's where step 2 comes in, this mind this gap knowledge translation piece, exercise oncology resources. And that's really the focus of the work that we have done in building these resources that are available for all of you. And so I'm going to share our educational resources and then our programming resources. So we have a couple websites that you can go to, and everything is free. So you can go there and download these. You can move them, take resources and put them on your own websites. These are there to share. And we have worksheets, we have infographics, we've got a ton of educational resources that can really get you started to think about what can you tap into to help support your health behavior change, right? So it's taking our best evidence and putting it into hopefully visual and graphic summaries that you can use, that you can share with others, that you can use to facilitate discussions and support around the behavior change. One guide that I think has been really well done is our Thriver manual. And so this is a free downloadable PDF, which kind of summarizes everything. And right now we're actually working on tumor-specific supplements to this manual. So we've just finished our breast one. Our prostate one will be out in a couple weeks. We have an advanced cancer one. We've got across different tumor groups. But this is an excellent manual. It's available on the same website, Thrive Health Services, which is our educational website. And you can find this there under all of the Survivor or Thriver tabs that have got this. So again, you can download this. It's a very well written, evidence-based wellness manual that introduces all of these ideas and really where the evidence is and the practical pieces. What can you do? How can you take control of your wellness during your cancer journey by even making small changes, little changes that can have a big impact? So an excellent resource that again is free for you to download. And then the last piece around the education is really what we do mostly within our programs. We call our programs Exercise and Educate, because it's not just an exercise prescription. It's really supporting this idea of moving more. And what does that look like, even if you start with 5 minutes of exercise every day? And these are some of our key messages. And I took this slide actually right from what I teach to the men at the Prostate Cancer Center every 2 weeks. Number one is you listen to your body because you're the best expert in your body, right? And so find what feels good for you. And that is what's going to help you build the habit of doing it, whether it's 5 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, right? So do what feels good for your body and move your body. Our bodies are built to be moving, right? And so as much as possible, find what feels good and do. There isn't a single best exercise. I always get asked, can I do this? Can I try that? If it feels good for your body, after surgery's healing process, we have guidelines around waiting post-surgery. There's a wait period. We want you to move, but not engage in structured exercise during that time. Okay, but there isn't a single best exercise. There's not a single best time to exercise. Okay, the best exercise is the one that you're going to do on a regular basis. That's what it is, right? So if you love to cycle, you can get back to cycling. If you love hockey, if you love walking, if you want to get out for hikes, all of those are great options, okay? There's two big factors that we know will absolutely help people develop that habit of exercise, and that's really what we're going for. And the first is social support. So we know that when you've got support, whether it is people that you're doing the activity with, or whether it is that supervised session, right? The exercise professional that's there supporting you, we know you're much more likely to build that habit and maintain exercise. Because here's the big picture message is really, unless you do this on a regular basis, you don't get the benefits. It's just like brushing your teeth, right? You can't do it once in a while and expect to have healthy teeth. Same with exercise, right? So again, just think about what can you do 5 to 10 minutes a day if that's where you're starting, right? What is feasible in your lifestyle to simply make that small commitment to? Because all of us have 5 to 10 minutes, okay? And how do you build the support for that? And then the flip side of that is, well, what's stopping you right now, right? During COVID, we saw that people didn't have access to anything, right? There was a real physical barrier, right? We were all isolated. We didn't have access. Everything was closed down. So that access issue can be a big one for lots of people, even post-COVID, as we start to go back to normal, okay? But what do you enjoy? Again, we're not built to keep doing things that we don't like. That becomes easy to find excuses to then not do it, right? So find something you enjoy, find something that fits into your lifestyle that's sustainable. Okay, so this educational piece around behavior change is really critical to supporting people to make the actual change. When we talk about then those barriers, we know that there's a lot of things that people talk about, right? Lack of time is the #1 barrier for all of us when we say why we don't exercise. Okay, so I encourage you to break it down. You can have what we call exercise snacks during your day. It could be getting up, it's a gorgeous day and you just take 5 minutes to go outside and get a little walk in, right? Or you go outside and you do some deep breathing activity and stretch your body, right? Just for 5 minutes, right? That's a big one for many individuals, but if you break it down, you can build up your minutes over the course of a day. Many individuals don't know what's safe for them during treatment, especially and after treatment, or if you're living with an advanced cancer, right? What is safe? Can I do this? And that worry can stop many individuals. And so that's why having a program where you've got a trained fitness professional can be really critical as well. The other piece within our education that we embed in our programs is this idea of giving people the skills, right? The skills to be able to support your health behavior change, right? Whether that's exercise or whether it's nutrition changes or sleep changes, right? These lifestyle behaviors are all so important. And we talk about these different elements. So I'm very briefly going to share with you the resources that we use and the education that we provide. And then I'm going to share with you our program that we have. So goal setting, this is the big one. It's our most evidence-based exercise behavior change tool that we have. And we encourage people not just to set a big goal, and you can have that big long-term goal, that's totally fine, but break it down to your weekly goal or even your daily goal. In our programs, we often ask people, what got you to class today? And what are you looking to get out of your class today? Right? Having that daily goal can be very empowering and motivating, right? It can, because you can see the change right away. Did I get to my daily goal or not? Okay, I can adjust it. You might have heard SMART goals before. We have a little bit of a modified version of a SMART goal. So you want to set your goals as specific as possible. You want to be able to measure them. So how do you know if you've achieved your goal? Okay, you want to choose goals that are attainable, challenging, but within your reach. Because if you never reach them, then the whole purpose of using goals to motivate you doesn't happen, right? And then we've got 2 R's and 2 T's. So it's relevant and realistic for you. So you want to choose something that's that you can, connect with. It's part of your identity, right? So relevant and realistic for you. And then the big one for us, timely. So there's always time frames around our goals, whether it's daily or weekly or longer. And then build that social support element in together. Who's going to support you in your goal? It might be just someone you tell your goal about, or it could be somebody that is sharing the goal with you, right? And we know when we can foster that more dyadic support, whether it's a partner at home, whether it's a group exercise class and other people in the class, or whether it's a trainer with you, when you have, again, that social support, you're much more likely to be held accountable to your goals. The next behavior change skill that we teach is how do you put it into action planning, okay? Sometimes called planning implementation. This is really an important skill, especially when this is a new behavior, right? So if you're just starting to build this up, we know that this can be super relevant to plan, to be able to schedule, to update your goals, update your activities, and to track things. So we know when we do this effectively, it can increase your confidence because you can see, you can track, right? Hard copy, or you can have it digitally, whatever works for you. And you can build into this then your goal setting, and then that feedback and reward system can be really built in so that you can adjust your action planning over time. This can be simple. It can be simply that you write in, okay, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm getting in a 10-minute morning walk, and it's in your calendar. Right? You think about your doctor's appointments, they're in your calendar so you don't miss them, right? They're prioritized. Action planning is about prioritizing your wellness in your usual schedule, whatever that looks like for you, right? And so here's an example of scheduling exercise based on your planning, and it can be as simple as a calendar like this that you can print out and put on your bathroom mirror or your kitchen fridge, somewhere where you see it, right? And so you just simply put in, what are you going to do each day? On the bottom, you can have some more specifics about, well, what are the things I want to do, I like to do? What are your goals over the next 3 months, or it can be a month, or it can be that week? And then how does physical activity make you feel, right? Again, we're going for always feeling good, and you're going to see what we track in our actual program in a minute, but physical activity is something that should enhance your sense of well-being. You feel in control. And that's one of the central elements, I believe, in how exercise is so beneficial, is it can help give people back that sense of control that cancer sometimes takes away, right? Because it's something that you get to choose to do that can enhance your overall wellness. So as you plan, a big tool to, again, it goes hand in hand with goal setting, is to self-monitor, right? And to adjust what you've planned, and then to adjust your goals to address the barriers that are inevitably going to come up that we already talked about. I showed you all those different barriers: the lack of time, the lack of access, all of a sudden you're not feeling well during your journey, and physical changes can be a barrier. Right? So self-monitoring and tracking your progress over time, whether that's weekly or bi-weekly, helps you then to be more accountable and to deal with the barriers as they come up, versus, oh, here's this barrier, I had to stop for a bit, and now I can't do this, right? That all or none mentality. And so really the self-monitoring acknowledges that barriers are happening for all of us, right? We all have life that happens around everything else. And sometimes that life can disrupt even our best intentioned plans. And so having this tracking and self-monitoring can be really critical to helping you get back on track when a barrier can take you off track. This has already been mentioned, but again, I cannot underemphasize the importance of social support in this behavior change process. We know participants are more likely to be successful in maintaining healthy habits if they build that network of support, whoever and whatever it can look like, and recognition that there's all sorts of types of support that can happen. It can be instrumental, so somebody actually showing you the new exercise, training you, right? It can be that informational support, so providing education, those handouts and worksheets can be very supportive. The companionship piece, right? The having other people to exercise with, the walking partner, the group fitness class that you become accountable to. Or it can be other things like emotional support, somebody checking in. You know, John used the ALEC framework for how to have discussions, and the emotional support that comes from group environments and exercise classes can be as critical and as important for our participants as the actual physical changes and the physical that they get out of the actual program, right? The last educational resource that I want to share, well, it's moving into the practice stuff, is our actual videos that are there, right? So we used to have a prostate-specific website. It was actually funded by the Walnut Foundation. It was True North Lifestyle Management, and I was the lead for that across Canada for the last number of years. That website is no longer active, and so we're in the process of moving all our prostate-specific resources to this website as well. But this is our website at the University of Calgary, thriveforcancersurvivors.com. There's a YouTube channel on our website, so you can go on and see 10 weeks of our 12-week program and just do it from home online. And it's all free. There's no charge to come into any of these resources. There's educational resources out here, and then there's short video clips showing you different exercises and how you can adjust it, whether it's in a chair or it's with bands or weights, or it's just your own body weight. So a lot of excellent videos here, and these are all led by trained, qualified exercise professionals, right? So people in our team that have been trained and lead our classes with individuals with cancer on an ongoing basis. So lots here that you can tap into and access, and I encourage you to check out the website and the YouTube channel on our site. Okay, so to wrap up, I want to tell you about an excellent, I think, program that we've had funded that is available across Canada. So no matter where you are listening from today, the EXCEL program is an option for you. So EXCEL, Exercise for Cancer to Enhance Living Well, has been funded by the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, Canadian Cancer Society, and in Alberta is also supported by the Alberta Cancer Foundation. This is a cancer survivorship team grant. So we're one of 6 that were funded across the country. And this is really a program that has been designed to take what we've done in Alberta for the last 6 years very successfully across the province and build it out across Canada to really reach people outside of major urban settings. So that's the one caveat, because in many of our urban settings, there are exercise oncology resources. However, outside of those settings, there's often not any resources available. And so EXCEL is primarily delivered online via Zoom, other than in the Maritimes, where we've had the opportunity to build more communities with actual in-class programs. So EXCEL is available to anyone, not just prostate cancer, but anyone with a cancer diagnosis living outside of major urban centers. up to 3 years post-treatment. So there's a large window for being able to capture individuals to come into the Excel program. It's for adults. And again, one of the limitations in lots of our research is you have to be able to consent in English. We screen you when you come in, right? So if you're interested in the program, the first piece is a whole screening phone call and or questionnaire to make sure you're eligible and you can participate safely in physical activity. And then because it's primarily delivered online, you have to have internet access and be able to have a device with a video function, have the camera, because we have to have cameras on for safety during our exercise programs. Okay, so that's the eligibility. Well, if somebody's interested in Excel, once they contact us, you're screened, as I've said, by a clinical exercise physiologist. So that's someone who has the scope of practice to safely and effectively assess you and then determine which class you can go into, because we've got more advanced classes for people living with more advanced cancers, people that are under treatment, people that maybe have comorbidities and complications that have an impact on their exercise. And then we have classes for people that are pretty much could go to someplace in their community, but they want a cancer-specific resource, right? We help you get the medical clearance if we need it. And if you are a higher risk group, you would be in a program led by our clinical exercise physiologist. And you can see on the screen here, this is essentially what the classes look like because they're online via Zoom, right? So you see your instructor there pinned for you. This is a picture showing everybody here, but you see, you just need some space, right? You need space in your home, outside, wherever you're going to access it from to be able to engage in the program. You can have weights or bands, but you don't need any equipment. You just need your space and your ability to move. What you get in Excel, so Excel is a study, right? And the exercise intervention, everything is free. It's a 12-week group-based program. So you get 2 sessions a week that are 1 hour each. It's a circuit-style multimodal program, meaning that you're going to get some aerobic activities. So you might do brisk walking or high knees or jumping jacks, depending again on your level. You're going to get a lot of functional movement. So a lot of working your major muscle groups. You get some core training and you get balance and stretching. So it's really an all-encompassing program that's delivered again online. So you have a lead instructor, and then there are support people on the session as well to monitor for safety, right? So the big piece in delivering this is safety first, ensuring everybody's got a good setup and that we've got all the screening in place to make sure you're in the right class. And then it's give you the program to get the benefits, right? So the moderator is there on the class with the instructor to make sure that everybody is safe during the program. You're given the skills of the exercise and educate piece that I've already mentioned, but you're also, tracked during the session. So we use this rating of perceived exertion to really understand, and where does it feel comfortable for you to work intensity-wise. So while everybody's in the same class, everybody's working really at levels that are appropriate to their fitness and to their well-being, right? So we use this 0 to 10 scale instead of taking, heart rates or having the smart watches on. We can use this scale to really monitor people's intensity. The other thing that we do is use these energy and fatigue thermometers. So these are an excellent tool, whether you're in a program or you just want to use these on a regular basis. Every time you move more, your energy should go up and your fatigue should come down. Okay, so you may not want to move. You might be like, oh, I've had a long day. I've driven to appointments. I've been stuck in traffic in Toronto, whatever it is, right? You might not want to move, and your energy and fatigue might be, low energy and higher fatigue as you start. The goal with movement, whether it's a 10-minute walk, get out for some fresh air, or you're doing a class, is that you see that switch. Energy goes up as you move more, and your fatigue comes down. Okay, so these are great tools for you to use just on a regular basis. And then we use them in the Excel program. We also, you've seen this slide already, we embed our exercise and educate framework. So Excel is much more than just the 2 classes a week. It is discussion around behavior change, it's handouts and the resources, and it's additional webinars. So we have webinars that all of our participants attend to learn more and to really facilitate that discussion and connection with others. We get asked a lot of questions when people find out about Excel and can they do that, and they're on treatment and I've got a bad hip, I can't move as well, and so I just want to clarify that really, while this is a group program and it's a protocol study, it's about tailoring to meet people where they are at. Okay, so we take into consideration your previous experience with exercise, your current fitness level, the treatment effects, other comorbidities, a bad hip, a knee replacement, heart disease, whatever it might be, what equipment you have, what kind of space you have, and then we modify the program based on assessing you at baseline and then delivering the program to you for the 12 weeks, right? So it's really tailored to meet individuals where they're at. And I'm going to end with these quotes because I think they so nicely capture that it's not just about the exercise prescription. Across all of the resources we've built and the programs that we lead, it's very clear that, well, the exercise is a means to gather everybody. The gathering of individuals and building this sense of community and support is absolutely an essential part of why we see the benefits across, in particular, the psychosocial well-being, the mental and emotional well-being of our participants and their overall quality of life. Right? So it is about empowering individuals to really integrate wellness into the cancer journey. And so with that, I thank you again for the invite to speak with you today. I believe that exercise really must become part and parcel of standard cancer care. And I look forward to any questions. And if you want to reach out to us, our wellness lab at UCalgary is definitely the best way via email. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole, the YouTube link and those links, can you put them into the chat for everyone? So
sure, I should be able to do that. Yeah.
For you, thing.
I can, yes.
And while you do that, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the Walnut Foundation does a lot of presentations to church and community groups.
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions that we always get, especially from younger men, is I'm potentially at risk because of my grandfather within the family.
Mm-hmm.
What exercises do I need to do to either slow the progression or prevent me from getting prostate cancer, being diagnosed?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And just like there's not a single best exercise, there's not, hey, do this to prevent any type of cancer. We know it's about so much more than that, right? Cancers can impact somebody who's been very physically active. We do know there's that association though, right? Between inactivity and increased risk across all populations, right? For cancer risk. Across many of our cancer types, we see that strong relationship in terms of prevention. And so the best thing you can do to reduce your risk is just simply be physically active. Right. And if you can try to reach those guidelines of around 90 minutes a week, the Canadian physical activity guidelines for adults is actually 150 minutes a week. Right. But really, we tend to see benefits and risk reduction anywhere at the 90 to 120 minutes is where we start to see it. So maintaining a physically active lifestyle and then along with other protective behaviors, right? Stress reduction, getting enough sleep, good nutrition, those all work part and parcel for that prevention piece. And sorry, was there another part, Ken, there too, if there is cancer?
So the other part of it is, a man has just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And we know the person goes through a lot of mental stress on a diagnosis. What is going to happen to my life afterwards? And they're worrying about all the impact of it. How do we motivate them to actually start taking that responsibility, shifting from the why me syndrome to really taking responsibility to do the next step, which is I've got to take control of this and do something about it?
Yes. So the key is what you just said, and it's that control, right? So when we think about exercise, as well as other lifestyle behaviors, we have this category of modifiable lifestyle behaviors, right? Meaning modifiable, you're able to change them. The evidence that I shared around the benefits of exercise for individuals living with and beyond cancer, the good news is you can start at any point, right? It doesn't really matter once you have cancer what you did before in terms of then accruing the benefits of being physically active, right? So you can be 2 years past, have gone through that, oh, why me? I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, right? All of that. at any point in time, if you start by making small changes, again, getting 5 to 10 minutes in a day, you start to accrue the benefits, right? So yes, if you can start earlier, we know we can help to diminish many of the negative side effects before they become bigger issues, but you can start later. And so I think the pieces that we really recognize is that, you know, typically when we think about people engaging in behavior change, we point at individuals, right? We say, well, it's all up to you. We know that doesn't work, right? It puts a lot of pressure, and frankly, our systems around those individuals put up a lot of barriers to them becoming more physically active, right? So I believe the healthcare system, the cancer care systems, need to start to embed the support for individuals to tap into these lifestyle behaviors like exercise in a more systematic way. So we don't leave it up just to you to figure it out and do it on your own. Because when you're sick, when you're dealing with lots of stress, when you're emotionally drained, it's not easy. It's not easy at the best of times to maintain a physically active lifestyle, right? And so we added cancer diagnosis and treatments and all the negative effects on top. And I think it's important to recognize it's not easy to make the changes. It's not that it's just exercise, right? If it was just exercise, everybody would already be doing it, and you wouldn't need me to talk to you today. We wouldn't need programs like Excel, but we absolutely need Excel. We need Excel embedded into healthcare systems so that men hear about it sooner. And I think the nice thing in particular for men with exercise is that, you know, it provides an environment where you're not focused on just talking to other people, which oftentimes men have a harder time with, right? And that support group. Our exercise is a moving support group, right? So we have the opportunity to pull men together. And I didn't mention this, but the work we've done in Alberta, we established men's exercise groups, prostate-specific groups through our True North programming. In Alberta, we have men's only exercise classes. So that we can bring those men together to help them to connect, to really sometimes address some of the concerns that they have that they don't want to share in mixed groups. And so that's been pretty powerful as well. So I think it does, if we can get people started and have a system that supports them to get started, we're much more likely to help them gain back that sense of control that cancer takes away.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions in the chat. Nick, Anna, are there any questions?
No, no questions at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nicole. The Walnut Foundation is going to look more into this Thrive Health Services and the stuff that we can sort of partner with you with in the future.
Wonderful. We're happy to share and provide access to anything. So if you see something there and you want the original files, just let us know. We'll